Good morning, everyone. It's Nate G. It is the August 26th. It's a Tuesday. And the market is, in the last 2 days, has been pretty quiet. It's absorbing. So if I come on all the way out to here, it's absorbing this massive move from Friday. Okay, so this was Friday here, and Powell came on and indicated that some rate cuts were potentially on the way. Market loved it, as you can see from the Vold indicator. We even started out green, so there was some anticipation of that. Green on the Vold indicator is plus 2.5 and above, and then when that move started, the Vold got all the way to 28, which is I don't know that I've ever seen a reading that high, um, and it just stayed above that level, basically stayed above 10 the rest of the day. So that was a pretty massive move up. And yesterday we were basically consolidating and just sort of absorbing that mood. Market's deciding what it wants to do, where it's going to go, etc. And so in chat, I put in that I wasn't going to play the 15-minute opening range break. That I was going to play the hourly to have a little bit more time to essentially see another card for those poker players. And so that one worked out well with this sort of hourly move up here. It didn't quite get us to profits there, so we had to kind of give it a little bit of time. So the theta decay also helped. It got close. And so I took mine off for 50% of the credit somewhere in here. It just triggered me out because I had that order already preset. And then we kind of came back down in and had a little bit of a flush at the end of the day, but overall just kind of sideways. And we're getting the same thing today. And I also did not play the 15-minute opening range break today. And I've had a couple of people ask, like, what was making you feel that way to not take it? Because here is the 15-minute opening range. It's marked on my charts, and we did break to the downside. Not hard, but we did break to the downside. And I just waited because Vold was showing positive numbers. Not that that's always an indicator. Advanced decline wasn't doing much. Ticks weren't doing much either. And so I was just kind of waiting to see if ticks would accelerate through that, or if they would sort of pause a little bit or not really have much of a reaction. There wasn't much of a reaction. And so now I'm kind of waiting to see if there is an hourly opening range break, which we're just chopping around in the middle of, right? Yeah. You and Roku dated back in college, didn't you, Nate? Uh, we used to play Roku all the time, and it was a blast. I think it's coming back though, isn't it? Aren't we getting a little bit more Roku? If it breaks above that, whoa! See, it's been so long I can't even spell it. Oh yeah. Yeah, if it gets above this, it's kind of at a level right there, but if it clears like 108.40 at some point, it's off and running. Yeah, but man, Roku through all of this business was just fun to trade. I do remember that. But where I was going with these days, where if you start to get a feel for the market, and you can tell when a trend day when it's not going to be a trend day, it's going to be a consolidation day. And the best way to play those kinds of days, if you like to do a zero DTE type of trade, you can try and figure out a pin with a iron butterfly and play the theta decay. Let me get rid of that blue line. Or you can play an iron condor, which gives you a range, right? So we could play, let's say today, we could play the iron condor, and if we went the 64.50 calls and the 64.25 or 64.30s, let's say. So you've got a 25 wide spread. These are set at 5, and then so as long as SPX stays in this range for the day, right? This is a call credit spread up here, 5 wide. This is a put credit spread down here, 5 wide. So anything in between, you're going to get that max credit as it goes sideways and into the end of the day, right? Now, if we get a move, we have to be able to manage that. But on days like this, an iron butterfly or an iron condor are going to work pretty well as long as we don't get news or kind of an outsized move, right? And we can talk a little bit more about how to maybe set those and play those if you want, but I know I've done a number of videos on those before. You're getting a little bit more of a wider range with an iron condor, except your risk to reward is pretty skewed generally. Whereas a iron butterfly, it's pretty much the same. I think yesterday I came in and I said maybe an iron butterfly at 64.50, or did I say 60? I think I said 64.50, if I remember that. And then max pain was 64.45. So 64.50 iron butterfly would have been selling a put and a call at 64.50, and then depending on how wide you wanted to do that, you do maybe it's a 20 wide total, so you do 64.60 put up here and a 64.40 put down here, and basically it acts as a butterfly, and you're trying to you get your max profit if you pin at 64.50, which this did not. But if you put that on, say at like 2 o'clock when you get your maximum theta decay, and that thing was coming into the last 10 or 15 minutes of the trading day, you were pretty close to max profits, and if you had managed that would have been a great trade. I actually did not put that trade on, but that would have been a great trade on that day. Although if you had held for expiration, it would have slid right out of profitability and you would have taken a max loss, right? But a lot of times the max loss on these is you're looking at, depending on how wide and where you buy it in relation to where you're trying to pin it. Your risk can be for one contract or one full butterfly, you're risking your total risk is 300 for a max profit of 1,700 or something along those lines, right? So if you pin it and it expires right at 64.50, then you're getting 1,700. And if it swings outside of those ranges, you're only going to lose 300. But then there's kind of a descending profit probability as you expire outside of that range. But there's a lot of ways to profit. You don't have to pin it exactly to be in some level of profit. what happens at the end of day in our accounts? Yeah, yeah. So the question is, how do you manage these? Well, I like to use the SPX or the XSP for a variety of reasons. One, XPX has some tax advantages to it, but also it's a cash settled security. So if you're at max profit, right, on a spread, or even if let's say you're buying a call and a put and it pushes up and you're in profit, you don't have to take it off to lock that profit in. You can let that let the end of the day, you can let it expire and it'll cash settle into your account. So when we play these credit spreads and we're selling an option for premium and it moves in our direction enough that we're not worried it's going to come back and stop us out, then we can just let it expire for that max credit, and we don't have to manage it. Where the SPY and some other indices like that, or even regular stocks, you have to manage them before the end of the day, or you get yourself into some potential trouble. So I do like these ones for cash settled reasons. Henry, yeah, you could and this is just a suggestion, right? This is not a trade I'm putting on right now. But, if you wanted to do an iron condor for today, so right now my lines are set at an hourly opening range break, right? And we could say, okay, this is 64.50 up here, right? You could do a 64.50, potentially 64.50, 64.55 put credit spread, and at the same time, you're doing a 64, 25, 64.20. I'm sorry. I just did that wrong. That's not a put credit spread. This is a call credit spread. This is the put credit spread. My apologies. And then that's an iron condor, which is giving you this range here, this $25 range, or you can make it a $20 range, or whatever you want to make it, to figure out the best sort of risk reward parameters. But really, if this expires for max credit, generally, I mean, I can play one out, but generally you're going to make per contract maybe 200 or 300, but you're risking, depending on how wide, maybe closer to 1,000 or more. So the risk reward is skewed quite a bit, but you're also giving yourself a nice range. Right. And on days, when days you have a lot of volatility and a lot of movement, these do not work out quite as well. There are a lot of strategies where you can put, an iron condor on at like a 10 o'clock or something like that, and then, manage them at like 2 o'clock or whatever, and you're not letting the thing go all the way to expiration. And they're all 0 DTE options. And so, you can play with these in terms of risk reward profile. You can do them 10 wide. You can do them, however wide you want. And it just kind of plays with both your range and your risk reward. But just know that if for whatever reason we get some news and the SPX moves dramatically outside of your range, you need to manage that. I recommend you manage that before letting it expire on the day, because the max loss on that is pretty skewed. It's like when we do the opening range breaks and we do, a 5 wide opening range break to, let's say, to the downside, and we're selling a call credit spread for $1, right? As long as it stays below this level, right, we're going to get our dollar per contract, but our risk is actually $4 per contract, you know. So all of a sudden you're doing 3, 5, 10 contracts. That risk gets, you know, it gets pretty darn massive, and in that case, you know, you really have to manage that trade if it goes against you. And the same thing with an iron condor. Um, the risk profile on an iron condor is kind of the same. You really have to manage if it's not going again, you know, if it's going against you. Any questions there? And then on days where there's more range, it's more profitable. No, well, I guess not profitable. It depends on how you manage it, but your probability of playing directionally is much better. How do I compensate for the huge spreads on the SPX? You mean between the bid and the ask? They're not that big. I mean, the SPY is 1/10 the SPX basically. So that should be, you know, if I recommend starting, like if you're doing directional calls and puts, like snipers, I recommend doing the SPY first so you can learn to manage that rather than, because once you get to the SPX, the movements happen so quickly that if you're not used to managing those trades, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. You got to be used to and ready to stop out. See, we're just chopping around near VWAP here. Nothing much going on. All right, should we see if we can find something to do? See if we can find a trade. I'd love to see ADI push up while we're here. 30-minute squeeze did fire. All right, let's see if we can find a little something to do. You guys want to set up a trade plan on something if we can find something? You like hood? Let's take a look at it. What time frame are you playing on hood? I need more coffee. I used to make coffee right before my session, and I forgot to do that today. Nate, do you do the Red Bull or the Celsius? Are you still here? Roast. Ross. 70, what'd you say, 78? You're a C4. Yeah, that's not bad. I don't love this last candle 2 days ago. I guess that would be Friday. Massive gap up and then close that gap in a hurry. That is interesting. I'm going to go through a couple of charts here, see if we can find something we like. No. Nate, do you have anything? What's your favorite chart now? What I wanted to do was, oh man, that would have been a great one earlier. Yeah, the banks have been looking pretty good. DuPont DD 30-minute squeeze. What's that look like on a daily? I don't think I'm gonna like it. Interesting. Nah, I don't care for it. Let's see here. CVX. Dix. I don't like today's candle. Man. That's pretty. All right, EOG. I'll look at APP in a second. I was looking at it earlier. It didn't have it didn't I ooh. Uh-huh. That's interesting. That's even more interesting because of this little breakdown and reclaim here. Do you see this? Humana. What's the daily look like? Oh, goodness. This looks like a little like ADI, doesn't it? What do you think of this one, Nadog? A little high and tight. HUM probably has a. I wonder what that 45-minute squeeze looks like. Whoa. I like this Humana chart. That's a lot. This is a lotto style. Let's see what their options look like, shall we? Not awful. I almost like the 300s for next week. I know that's not a lotto. I like the 305s for this week. In fact, I think I'm going to pick up some 305s for this week. See if I can get a decent fill here. Come on, help your boy out. All right, 111. So then I actually like the 300s for next week, but let's mark this chart up first and see what we got. So do you see these levels here? Here, let me go to like a 3-minute. So the previous high, this yellow line, is basically marking a previous high. And the way VP is set up right now, it's not as clear. Where we have a value area low and a breakdown. But our previous resistance, right? It double tapped that resistance and then pushed up through. So previous resistance becomes support, right? And so we popped up, right? We basically gapped up to that level, pushed through, and now we've come in and tested that support level twice. And then today we broke down quickly and reclaimed quickly. And so you can see, if I go to like a one, it's a little choppy the way the candles show, but you can see basically what happened is we tested it, we broke it, we pushed back up, we've tested it, and now we're moving that way. So, you've got, test, break, reclaim, right? That's kind of what I'm looking at. This is probably a little high, but you know what I'm saying. And then This break and reclaim back into the pattern is bullish. Yeah, bud. That's why we do this. Share the ideas. Let's hope it works. Uh, ADI worked, so that was what a great idea you had there, Nate. Um, eBay didn't work, so what a terrible idea I had. Right? Isn't that the way the game works? is is if is if the trade idea works, it's your own, and then if it doesn't, it's somebody else's, and they're an idiot. Yeah, I think all three of us say it all the time. Yeah, of course. I wanted to come on and publicly thank you for the ADI idea. You made me 100% today, and you're you're a genius. Um, yeah, and so if I was playing, I am playing HUM. So I have a lotto on it right now, and I might. We'll see how it kind of shapes up today, but I might also look at the 300s for next week. I kind of liked those. But right now, for those of you, oh, just follow Nate's. He's also in the 305s. I got a much better fill, um, but it hasn't run away from us yet. And for me, on this one, we're playing a lotto, right? So, we want this thing to move quickly, right? We have a short dated. We're Friday expiration on these, and I'm also not going to give it a whole bunch of room, right? So, if we come down here and we break this swing low, I'm out. I'm out. I could talk myself into giving it room to gap close, but I'm not going to do that because I have essentially 3.5 days, and I really don't want to hold this through Friday because it's really going to decay quickly. I basically have 2 days for this to work, 2.5, right? And what's the one thing we all, as new traders, get stuck doing? And again, we do this all the time, but I'm going to say this, and then a bunch of you are going to say, "Oh, are you looking over my shoulder?" And the answer is yes. I have cameras in all your houses. But if this decides to kind of come up and I'll draw a better line here, but like if it kind of comes up into this trend line here and it looks like it's going to go, and then it says, no, I'm gonna break, and I'm gonna come down to here, and then it bounces, and then it comes down to that level again, and then it bounces, and then it breaks that level, and we're like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should give it down to gap close and another VP, and so it bounces off of that, and then rolls a little further and breaks down here, and we've got this lotto that only gives us 2 days worth of time, and we're hold and hope. I'm maybe adding down here, and then well, it's gonna come back. Now it's 50% down, and what's the point of taking it off? It's almost zero, right? And then you're kind of holding and hoping, and theta is also working against you because it's decaying fast, right? While this thing is drifting off. So when I play a lotto, if it works, if it's working, great. If it's not working, it's gone. It does not need to live in my account. It's a bastard. I don't want it. And because I also don't want to sit here for the next 4 days if this doesn't start to work, and go, or 3 days, sorry, and go, oh, what should I do? Should I add to this? Should I take it off? Is it going to bounce? What's the next level of support? No. If it's working, great. I'm going to take some profits. And my profit target will be, obviously it's going to find some resistance here at 300. You can see this VP line here. Also, that's, you know, a mental number. So I'll be watching it through that level. But the first spot I'd like to take some profits are here at 301.63, if we can come into that high. And then the next spot for me would be, you know, kind of this 303 level, 302.81, right? Those are my profit targets for this one. And I might leave, you know, I might leave a little one lot trailer on if it really wants to start going. Well, I'm not explaining why it's going down. I'm explaining if it goes down. Right? I'm playing this to the long side as well. I'm just saying, you know, when we talk about psychology of playing a lotto, and I'm sure Nate will get into this in a big way tomorrow for his lotto summit. That's tomorrow, right, Nate? Did I get that right? I think so, yeah. I plan to be there for that because I love a good lotto. Baby needs some new shoes. You know, you need them to work quick, and if they don't, there's nothing wrong with cutting them. Right? They're essentially a day trade. I mean, sometimes you're holding them, you know, overnight, like ADI yesterday. That was a lotto trade, right? Those were this week's expiring options. You know, we took them kind of down in here. We got our nice move up today. I flipped out a chunk of them, still holding, watching today for an additional push. But really, if what I have on doesn't start to work today, I'll probably just take the rest off for profit, just because they're so short dated, and move on and find another one. Should we see if we can find another one? Does anybody have any questions on Hum? A lot of lottos? I like it a lot. I mean, I didn't write out my trade plan on the screen because Nate pretty much did that. Right? So you can just look in the trades tab and see the plan. But finding these levels is what's key, right? Finding this previous resistance, now support level, as a you know, a stop area. So, well, let's you know, we'll just do a stop area, right? Which was a stop area. The top end of that was a stop area, and you know, market makers ran those stops, a little breakdown, and then reclaim. You know, little liquidity grab before a move back up. And we have some profit targets, and we know our plan, right? And so that's what you have to do on every trade you take is have a plan. And in many cases, write it down. So when you pop back over to that chart, you can go, okay, what's my plan here? Okay, that's right. These are short dated. I mean, like, how many of you have bought a short dated option on a Monday, and then you're waiting for it to work, and it's Wednesday or Thursday, and you look at it, and nothing's really happened, but you look at your P&L, and it's like way down, and you're like, oh, shoot. I forgot that I bought that as a lotto, and now it's Thursday, and the theta has just destroyed this thing. Right? I just think we're chopping around today. I could see a pin at 64.40 for fun. What's max pain today? Let me check. 6445. So basically Max Payne is at this blue line. I could see that being a pretty fun Iron Condor pen. What would that cost? You guys want to indulge me while I see what that would cost? Problem with Toss is there's no one way. Yes. I love a pretty chart that there's just nothing to do with. Burl. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, what do you mean there's nothing to do with? We're right here at point of control. There's something to do. And then, of course, oh, yeah. Earnings in the morning. Yeah, that is a nice one. So do you all see, like, I know enough of you have been in here long enough to know, you know, exactly why that's just a beautiful chart. Got some traffic to get through right here, though, doesn't it? Huh. Yeah, I do like that one. But hell, a move into that POC, that'd be enough on a $280 stock. Are they? Damn. That's the worst. I remember there was a time when I was first learning from you, Nate, that I would go find these charts that were just ridiculous looking because of the way I was scanning for them, and they like wouldn't have options, or they would have only monthly options with like a $10 wide spread. But I wouldn't check that first. I would put it into the chat thinking I was, you know, I was going to be the man. I was going to bring you the next winner. And then you'd look at the options and you'd be like, these are horrid. I'd be like, okay. Then I started refining my search to only names that had weekly options. And then I think I narrowed it down a little bit more so that most of the time on my charts and my search functions, they're decent options. All right, let's see if we can find one more thing to do before I jump off. Because I know Nate wants to come on for a minute, and then D-Man wants to do his bedtime stories. I plan to. Ooh, I don't hate that chart. I'm gonna put my PJs on and get comfortable for DJ's books. D-Man's, DJ's. Why did I say DJ? I need more coffee. McDonald's. I just wish this spike here was not the high. I wish this one was the high. And then they started descending. Although McDonald's, interesting. All right, let's see what else we have. Ooh, EXPE, no. We looked at JPM yesterday, I think. DT, but Meta looks great. tap, BD. UNH looks fantastic. I was staring at that this morning. I tried to play it. Was that last week or the week before? And I was just too short dated on it, and it just didn't really do much. I was really bummed. It looked like it was ready to go. CHW. I think that might. Yeah, I think that might be all she wrote. As far as good charts go. Oh, hello. I'm also not mad at this Toll Brothers chart. What do you think of that one, Nate? What do the options look like? Oh, here we go. They only have monthly options. Spreads aren't bad, though. Go 24 days out, September 19s. Well, it's going to cost you, though. All right, I don't like that one. Moving on. UAL. Oof, missed that one. ULTA. I think we found them. Might just play Toll with some stock. ABT kind of is interesting. Where's my VP? There we go. Hey, look, here's the point of control. All right, well, I'm sticking with HUM for now. And watching ADI, see if it wants to push up today. And that'll kind of be it for me. I like that 64.45 pin. You know, if we look like we're continuing to kind of go sideways throughout the remainder of the day, at 2 o'clock, from 2 to 4 is where you get the most theta decay. And so on some backtesting stuff that I've been doing, a 2 o'clock iron butterfly. And I was actually just, the testing has been just setting it for whatever the price is at 2 o'clock. The nearest strike to that is the iron butterfly. It's been doing pretty well. And especially on a day like this, put it on at 2 o'clock, try and manage it at 3:55, and you can, on a day like today, that might work out. So at 2, I might try putting one of those on, depending on what price action looks like. Any questions for me before I jump off? We still have not broken the 1 hour opening range. We might not even break it today. UPST, you want me to look at that before I think I did when I was doing a little scanning. Yeah. I like it. I just... I just don't love it. It's above POC here. I don't like these wicks. But I could see... Yeah, it's fine. I don't love it. That's not to say it's not going to rip. I just don't love it. Yeah, it's the break of the 1 hour candle high, and I usually want to see a 5 minute candle close. Unless the only time I don't do that is if like ticks are showing either strong or negative depending on the break, and it looks like a move is happening, then I'll take it before the 5 minute candle breaks. But if ticks are just sort of floating around or pushing some kind of close to 600 or negative 600, I'll usually wait for the 5 minute candle to confirm that break. If I were to want to play APP, if I were to want, it's an interesting way to phrase that. Options are really expensive on it. All right, let me look. So this is if somebody put a gun to your head and said you have to play APP, what would you do? Is that what you're asking me, Byron? I might have to follow you on that one, Nate. If I was being forced to play it, I want you to want to do the dishes. Oh boy. Don't get me don't get me started. I'll go on a rant. What would I do? If I had to play this, I would probably play it. I would probably try and play this like 5 minute squeeze. Oh, I don't have a chart there. Hold on. APP. I would probably be trying to... Is it a 5 minute squeeze? Yeah. I'd probably be trying to play this 5 minute squeeze with a... You want me to play September options? I don't know. I just don't... Here's the problem. We're coming up here and basically we're at double top, or thereabouts, right? There's one level there. There's also, this one right here. And that's where it stalled before on its move up, before it retraced and came right back up again. So I guess if you were forcing me to play it, I might short it. I know that sounds stupid. I don't know. I wouldn't play it. Oh, how would I? Oh, are you playing it to the long side, Byron? Tell me what you want to do with it. That's a better. You want to go long? Oh, yeah. I mean, you could just do I mean, if you're trying to go long, you could do a put credit spread or a call debit spread. Like, then you're mitigating you're mitigating both your downside risk and your upside potential. But well, that depends on what you're trying to play. So if you want to play this little flag here that's happening, right above VWAP, then you could play a put credit spread, at, 4. I mean, it depends on how much risk you want to take. If you want, you know, more even risk to reward, you could play the 465s, right, against the 467 fives. Uh, oh, sorry, the other way, the 462 fives. So, you know, or if you wanted to give yourself a little bit more space, you could play the 4. But it depends, right? Like if you're playing the daily chart, and you want to do a spread of some sort, you have to find a level in which you think that the stock is going to stay above, right? And then you can play that level as your sold strike in a credit spread. There's just different ways to play it. I don't know what you're trying to. Are you trying to capture daily? So you want to go out to September? Where's your support level? You know what I mean? But those are ways to play more expensive stocks with more expensive options that that are not, that don't eat up your capital as much. But it also limits your upside and your downside. Just like we play those opening range breaks, basically. Right? And the way we do those is we have a downside limit, right? Which on this XPX would be the 1 hour time frame. It'd be this sort of the 6430 level. We don't think it's going to go below that if it breaks to the upside. So the potential to be sell a five wide put credit spread down here, which means all it has to do is stay above that to get that profit. You should also look into a credit spread. You can get more profit with limiting downside risk with that. But in that case, it does cost you something to make that trade, just like any trade. But you can also look into options like that. Okay, I'm gonna jump off here. I think Nate's probably gonna pop on for a little bit, and then D-Man. So I'll be in chat, and I will talk to all of you a bit later.